Where did the assembly come from? We all know that the assembly is quite different from SCOBA, which of course many of you are very familiar with. SCOBA was basically a bottom-up grassroots organization, and it was composed of each of the hierarchs, the ruling hierarchs of the various Orthodox jurisdictions in this country. By contrast, the assembly of canonical Orthodox bishops around the world is a top-down approach. There was a meeting that was held at the Phanar, hosted by the Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew in October of 2008, a synaxis of all the heads of the Orthodox churches, Europe and Asia, the ancient autocephalous churches. And at that time, they expressed their desire for what they called the healing of every canonical anomaly that has risen around the world as a result of historical circumstances and pastoral needs or pastoral requirements. And it talked about the healing of that. And the word healing is extremely important here because it only happens on a personal level. And I think all of you as members of Orthodox Christian laity recognize that any kind of change, any kind of transformation that we want to have, whether it's ourselves or ourselves as community, only happens on a personal level. And as well, it calls for swift healing. Now this is a word which doesn't happen very often in the Orthodox world, swift. Okay, so please make very, very close note of that. Within a year following that, in fact, there was the fourth preconciliar Pan-Orthodox Conference, which was held in Chambézy, which is Grace Bishop Maxime has already referred to, and it took action. And it established regional assemblies of bishops around the world outside of the ancient autocephalous churches' lands. It established 12 of them around the world. And it charged these assemblies with various tasks. Among them, manifesting the unity of the church, expressing that unity in common action, not just in words, and also the preparation of a plan to organize the Orthodox of the region on a canonical basis. And again, it used very strange words for us Orthodox in it. It says, please do this as soon as possible. So the assembly of, one of those regional assemblies was the Assembly of North and Central America. And 3 annual meetings were held as pictures of the first assembly, which was in May of 2010 in New York City. And then there were 2 succeeding assemblies in May of last year that were held in Chicago, and just last month also in Chicago. And I was very, again, honored to be present at that last one. Now, there were changes in both the content and the process and the feelings of these 3 assemblies. I asked a number of the bishops how it went, and some of the clergy and laity who attended that, and I said, how were these assemblies different from one another? As you all know, when first time basically 50 bishops got together, many of whom didn't even know each other. They'd never even met each other. And the first thing that they do is, hello, how are you? I'm Bishop so-and-so, and I've just never met you, although I live in the next state. But first of all, it had to assume the responsibilities that SCOBA had for the agencies and endorsed organizations, such as IOCC, OCMC, OCF, OCEC, etc. And it also had to set up its own administration. Now, there's an executive committee here, which is formed by a chairperson. The chairperson, according to the rules of Chambézy, is the exarch of the Ecumenical Patriarchate, first in the diptychs of the Orthodox Church. And that would be Archbishop Demetrius of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese. And then 2 vice chairmen, who are, again, in the order of the diptychs, Metropolitan Philip of the Antiochian Archdiocese and Archbishop Justinian of the Moscow Patriarchate. As well, there is a secretary that's elected and a treasurer elected from the assembly, and that secretary is Bishop Basil of Wichita, Antiochian Archdiocese, and the treasurer is Archbishop, now Metropolitan-elect, Anthony of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church in the USA. It also set up 13 committees, some of which His Grace Bishop Maxime has already described. So it set up that general organization. Assembly 2 focused on the work of the committees. So it basically was like Christ sending out the 70 disciples and then having the 70 disciples come back and reporting, what did you do? Christ says, I saw Satan, fall like lightning from heaven. And while it wasn't exactly lightning from heaven this time, but it was still a lot of work that these committees had done. And I'll talk a little bit about that further. Assembly 3 went on to even more details, talking about canonical affairs, the canonical registry that Bishop Maxime's already talked about, as well as canonical normalization and reorganization. So we went from the general to the particular. We also went from a more formal approach at the first meeting to a very, very informal approach at the second one. At the first one, if you go to the website and you read what happened during that first assembly, you'll hear a number of addresses, formal addresses, and a lot of people making motions and so on. The second one was involved with bishops giving reports. The third one actually was on a much more person-to-person, informal discussion level, which is something that I think all the bishops really welcomed that. Now, as far as the functions, or what kind of is the foundation of the work of the assembly, it's provided by what we call the Secretariat, which provides administrative support. And I'm going through this not in order to wow you with all the work that's being done, but to give you a feeling of the people that are involved and how it's done. It's not just the assembly of the bishops. It's conciliarity. It's the bishops, the clergy, and the laity working together. The Secretariat is led by, as I mentioned, Bishop Basil Essie of Wichita, and he has two bishops assisting him, Bishop Maxime, who you just heard from, who is the coordinator for the committees, and Bishop Andonios, who is the Chancellor of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese in New York, who is the coordinator for the agencies and the endorsed organizations, which were taken over from SCOBA. As well, they each have facilitators who help them. I am the facilitator for Bishop Maxime in his work as coordinator for committees. Mrs. Angling McCool from the Antiochian Archdiocese is that for Bishop Andonios. They are assisted by over a dozen priests, deacons, and laity. We have met twice in person. We have met monthly by telephone conference. Bishop Basil runs a very tight ship. He sets a firm agenda, and people have to meet what's the objectives of the agenda, and he makes sure that everybody's opinions are heard. It's very much of an egalitarian sort of a meeting. This picture is of the first one that was held in Alhambra, California, outside of Los Angeles. Shows St. Stephen's Serbian Orthodox Cathedral. Bishop Maxime was the host for that particular meeting. As well, we have three special programs. One is communications. One of the things that I read about Orthodox Christian laity that you're looking for is transparency and accountability. You want to know what's going on. So one of those functions is fulfilled by our program on communications led by Alice Machaski, who, as you may or may not know, was the former editor, publisher, CEO of the Cleveland Plain Dealer, now retired. Our research and analysis, we do an awful lot of that, which has been extremely beneficial to our work, led by Alexei Krindach, and as well in terms of communications, again, person-to-person discussions, the conversations with the bishops. If you go to the website of the Assembly of Bishops, you'll hear up to date right now 24 conversations with the bishops hosted by Father Josiah Trenum. Now, 13 committees were set up, were established to carry out the tasks of these assemblies, and hierarchs were basically appointed as the members of those committees, and they were assisted by consultants. They're not officially members of the communities, but they're consultants, and they're composed of clergy and laity. There's over 100 consultants. Someone just did a count of the number of hierarchs and consultants that are involved, and the latest count is 191 people who are working in the assembly. Each committee also has an assigned liaison from the Secretariat to make sure that people talk to each other, the committees talk to each other. There's overlaps, if there's conflicts, those are resolved as quickly as possible. Now, we talk about accountability. Each committee has what are called terms of reference that are posted on the Assembly website. And these terms of reference detail what is to be accomplished by the committee, what are the objectives, how it is to be accomplished, and with whom it is to be accomplished. Because with whom, as a personal thing, is just as important as how it's going to be accomplished. And those terms of reference are there so that they're referred to from time to time. Are we doing what we said we were going to do? As well, there are progress reports. And if you go to the website, you'll see many of them. You'll see some that are lacking. And so there's a lot of follow-up that's done. The work is proceeding at a reasonable pace. It's not as soon as possible. It may be as swift in Orthodox terms, but we are actually getting there.